drinking a honey vanilla latte, which is my favorite drink here at Drip Coffee. It was kind of one of those crazy things. Women, have the parties where they get together and they have to buy things. And a friend of mine asked me to come to this card making party. And what ended up happening was at that party going reluctantly thinking, oh gosh, this is going to be crazy. It actually kind of ignited a little bit of my creative side. And it was stamping and cutting paper, which I love paper, so that kind of fed into that little bit of passion and obsession that I have with office supplies. And so what ended up happening is we created these cards, and we created them so quickly and so effortlessly. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing to me that I could just take some ink, some paper, and some rubber stamps and be able to create something that is worthy of giving to someone else or selling or whatever. And from there, I got obsessed, essentially, and started buying everything that I could. And I went into business, actually, selling the stamping products so that I could get a discount. And it was purely to fill my obsession. I wanted to create more, and I wanted to have more stuff, and I wanted to be the one that had the biggest craft room at the end of my life. But then I realized that the idea of selling the product wasn't really what was the drive for the reason I did what I did. The drive came from the creation piece of having time to sit in my craft room and create and look at different patterns and see if things work, and to really just kind of let go of the structured look at the computer screen time that I do every day. The inspiration actually comes from a lot of different places, and I'm really good at mimicking things that I see. So if I see something online, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a Pinterest-aholic. If I see something online and I want to create it, I don't necessarily have to have the directions. I can look at the visual space, I can look at things and guess the size that they are, and then try to recreate it. And I also have gotten to a point, and I think it's because of the length of time that I've been doing this, that I'm starting to spatially put things together just by looking at, say, a certain stamp or whatever. And I've also gotten into having people create handmade stamps for me so that I can create a desired effect or look, or just something that can't necessarily be purchased by buying a stamp set that's at Michael's or through a company like Stampin' Up or something like that. So it's really kind of interesting how it all has evolved. I think that it's really going to be a movement that helps bring us back to, we always use those terms of hands-on and the user experience and so on. And I think what the maker movement does is it forces us to bring us to that quote-unquote hands-on type of learning. But when you mesh that in with, looking at science and math and engineering and technology and the STEM movement, the critical thinking piece, when you add the maker level to it, I think adds a whole new dimension that we as educators typically say we don't have time to do because we have to focus on the standards. We have to cover the standards for the test. And I think the maker movement helps us put all of those pieces together to cover those standards, but also allow for deeper understanding and deeper learning and deeper mastery of the content. Brought with me today, this kind of is my latest fascination, and it is handmade and hand-sewn notebooks. So it's just a paper notebook that, you know, has blank sheets in it. But what I've done is, if I can find the middle, I do the hand binding myself with an embroidery stitch, and so you know, it just kind of gives it a nice handmade quality to it. And then I put a stamp on it. And this particular stamp was a handmade stamp that I had made for myself. This one piece, and then this is an example of one of the cards that I make, and this is a birthday card. With card making, some of the things that kind of ignite some creativity and so on with me is just the different patterns and color combinations that you can make with the stamps that are going on. So if someone wants to get into this as a hobby, or even a small business eventually, I would definitely suggest starting off as the hobby level, so that you kind of get an idea of what your style is, what types of medium that you like to work with. I work predominantly with like cardstock type paper. I'm starting to work a little bit with fabrics and some other things, but you really want to start off with, you know, a play period, and essentially, you know, if you think back to the maker movement, that's kind of what it is play. And then, you know, give your products or your samples or whatever you're going to call them, give them as gifts, give them, you know, so people start seeing you doing, you know, and make it visual, just to let them know. And if you want to go ahead and make that step into the business realm, it's really awesome to go to craft fairs. I find that I get the most enjoyment out of going to craft fairs or local markets. I do sell at a local market here in Columbia called Soda City, and the interaction with the people is probably the best piece. And specifically with the stationery and the cards, handwriting seems to be a lost art these days, and I'm never in abundance at a craft fair or something like that. There's not a lot of vendors that do handmade cards and stationery. So when people find me, they're usually overexcited about the fact that, ooh, someone sells paper. So, you know, just enjoy it. Also find out your local tax and business licenses information, because in some places, like where I live, it's very hard as a small business person to really know what the business laws are. So that's down the road if you get good at it and want to really become a business. But just play, create, and share.